Woo! Thank you for the energy. So first off, I have a quick question to start everybody off. So I want all of you to raise your hand if you sustained any sort of injury from when you were a kid, whether it be a scrape, a broken arm, or anything at all. Oh, okay, perfect. This is pretty much as I expected. I think a general consensus that we can all make is that us as kids, we're unafraid of trying and hurting ourselves. For example, 4-year-old me in particular was an incredibly careless kid. I was the type of kid who never really thought before they did anything, always taking some sort of risk. One of my earliest memories, actually, involved me attempting to help my parents carry a large pot of steaming hot vegetable soup from the kitchen all the way to the dining table. I was so happy. I finally had the chance to be an adult and commit to an adult task. But, of course, it backfired. I spilled the soup all over my arm, which was covered by a long sleeve, so my shirt ended up sticking to my skin. I'll spare the rest of the gory details, but in the end, I came out of the ER with a huge cast, and eventually it healed into a scar. And this is a scar. I'm not sure if you can see it from here, but it's on this arm. It vaguely reminds me of North America sometimes, so I used to kind of use it to memorize information for my AP US history tests. But anyways, I can count so many other times in which I was a kid, and I've consistently done stupid things and endured some sort of consequence. Whether it literally be eating blades of grass and being sick because of it, or running too fast on my bike and falling down millions upon millions of times, I was a stupid kid. And as I'm sure from the raise of hands earlier, that was all of you too. But what about us now? As we age, as we are about to reach adulthood, are we still unafraid? Do we still act stupidly? And most of all, do we still take risks? The answer is probably to a much lesser extent than we've done previously. And when we become adults, move on to college, and later on maybe get a job, we might even take less risks, try and fail at even less things. And this can be really bad. You could be missing out on so many future opportunities. Trial and error is a crucial art. It's extremely important for your personal development and societal development as a whole, no matter where you stand in life. Just as an artist creates by experimenting, making mistakes, and doing things over and over and over again, trial and error is the process of discovering what's best for you and improving while making mistakes. It's about learning through doing things over and over again, and growing. The more you try, the more you learn, and the closer you get to really creating something meaningful. Now, I had the opportunity to read Think Again by Adam Grant in my writing seminar this semester, and I learned so much more about the topic of rethinking and trial and error, specifically through something that he calls thinking like a scientist. He specifically mentions startups in one of his chapters, stating that entrepreneurs who constantly rethink and question their beliefs are more likely to innovate towards success. Basically, trial and error through thinking, also known as rethinking, produces far better outcomes than without any rethinking whatsoever, which goes against what people traditionally think about entrepreneurs, which is that they're headstrong and set on their ideas. So, why exactly do we experience less trial and error, or in other words, become more risk averse as we potentially grow older?
Yeah.
1, we don't want to make mistakes. We perceive the stakes as higher, losing wealth, social status, etc., scaring us to stay within our comfort zones. We don't want to embarrass ourselves in front of others. Additionally, the fear of regret outweighs the thrill of the unknown, something called loss aversion, where we fear losses more than any potential gains. When we're younger, we view the unknown as kind of this exciting adventure, but as we potentially grow older, the potential for regret can feel much heavier. The thought of making a mistake and then having to live with the consequences for who knows how many years can be paralyzing. So instead of stepping into the unknown, we stick with what we know, fearing that any deviation might lead to a lifelong what if. In other words, we are also comfortable with where we stand, whether it be in our beliefs and our current skills that we've built up. Trying something new feels incredibly intimidating as a result. Lastly, instead of seeing failure as a stepping stone to growth, we see it as a reflection of our self-worth. We tell ourselves stories like, I'm not good at this, or I'll never succeed, and those stories stop us from even trying. As children, that self-awareness is a lot smaller, which gives us the opportunity to make more mistakes and grow as a result. To summarize, aging can make us a bit more curious, or a bit less curious and more afraid. For you all specifically, most of you being teenagers, you're likely in the stage of your life where you start to become a bit more self-aware of what you're doing, and that might lead you to avoid doing certain things out of fear of embarrassment or failure. Now, for the big question. What can we do to mitigate these factors? How can we reapproach the way we think to encourage more trial and error? Here are 3 basic steps that I'd specifically like to highlight. Number 1 is to redefine failure. Start by changing how you think about failure. Instead of seeing it as some sort of endpoint, see it as data, information that helps you improve for the next time. Ask yourself, what did I learn from this experience, and how can I use this experience to potentially grow? Number 2 is to take small risks on the regular. You don't have to dive headfirst into any sort of life-changing experience right away, but you should be starting small. Try cooking a new recipe, building up a new skill, or speaking up in a meeting where you traditionally never really speak up at. Each small risk builds your confidence for taking on bigger risks for the future. And last but not least is to celebrate your efforts, no matter how big and no matter how small. The fact that you even tried at all is absolutely amazing. Reward yourself for stepping outside of your comfort zone, even if things don't go as perfect as you might expect. In summary, while risk-taking naturally decreases as we age due to fear, comfort, and societal pressures, it's possible to mitigate this trend with some intentional strategies. By changing how we view failures, creating supportive environments, and regularly pushing our boundaries, we can regain the curiosity and courage of our younger selves. In fact, I can tie this into my own journey of experimentation today. Throughout my years in high school and college, I committed myself to trying more and more new things. I engineered a bladeless fan backpack with absolutely zero engineering or prototyping experience, started my own tote bag business, created an animated PSA and joined an animation studio in college, and so much more. Although I experienced many failures, specifically with my business garnering little to no revenue whatsoever, I learned so many things from each individual experience that have helped shape my personal growth. Not only can we experience individual growth, however, but as a society, there are numerous benefits. If we can become more open to trial and error as we grow older, our society can experience leaps and bounds in innovation. According to SPD Load, an impressive 93% of all successful businesses have undergone pivots from their initial ideas. And that's because the very nature of the startup process forces you to rethink over and over and over again. Successful founders are willing to commit to months, maybe even years of trial and error. This process of trial and error in the startup world leads to breakthrough innovations that potentially can change lives. For example, Netflix is a prime example of a company that underwent a significant pivot. Originally, they started as a DVD rental service, challenging the traditional video rental model, by offering a subscription service for online DVD rentals. But over time, the trend changed. The demand for physical DVDs started to go on the decline, and the demand for streaming became more viable. So Netflix had to make a decision. They had to pivot significantly, which was a huge gamble, but it ended up paying off. Netflix is now one of the leading entertainment giants today. And without that willingness to embrace failure and make that gamble, Netflix would never have become the big company that it is now. So, here's my challenge to you all. Channel your inner 4-year-old, the one who wasn't afraid to, in my case, spill soup or fall off their bike, and start embracing more trial and error in your personal lives, no matter how small. Start that exercise routine, maybe talk to that guy or girl or whoever you like, and if you're interested in startups like I am, maybe start by designing ideas for your dream business. Take risks, make mistakes, and continuously learn from them. Because at the end of the day, life shouldn't be about avoiding failure. Every scar tells a story, every mistake teaches us a lesson, and every single stumble brings us closer to success. So let's stop being afraid to fall down and start getting excited about what we'll discover when we get back up. Thank you.